Most of us human beings really yearn for a loving relationship. We want to have one that's satisfying. Many people will say, I'm seeking for love. I'm seeking to find a person who's loving, who'll be there for me, and so on. And often that doesn't work. We have to raise the question, why? And we see that what often happens is that we'll replay things in our lives and our relationships that are very much akin to what we grew up with as little kids. If we had somebody as a parent who was neglectful, who didn't care for us, who didn't attend to us when we were hungry or when we were wet, and did not listen to our feelings or our needs, we'll often pick somebody unconsciously as a mate that's familiar. We'll pick somebody who will be that remote and not as responsive and not as loving. The extreme of this kind of thing, most people have heard this story or know someone. If a girl was brought up in a family where her father beat her up and would hit her, and punish her physically over and over again, far often she'll be attracted to a guy who will beat her up. And then when she'll divorce him, she'll be drawn to another guy who will beat her up. Why? Not because she's a bad person, but that's what we all do. We're attracted to replays of what's familiar and what's programmed into us. So if we had somebody who was loving and kind, or somebody who supported us in our ventures and activities, somebody who was affectionate, somebody who was communicative, we're much more likely to play that out. But what if we didn't have that, and we still want to have loving relationships? Well, the good news is that those are things that people can now use tools to clear out that old programming. We don't have to carry the old programming that we got from mom or from dad that we don't like. We don't have to carry the patterns of communication that were not useful. We can learn different ones. And now we have new tools that can clear out that embedded information in the painful experiences that occurred. We have the tools that can help us change our belief systems about what we deserve or what we don't deserve. We can have tools that help us learn communication skills, where we can actually help a person be able to hear us when we express our feelings or our hurts or our needs. In fact, we can see that there's even greater power in vulnerability than in strong arguing or anger. It's far more powerful in having an effect that's positive in a relationship. There's so many things that we can learn differently to create a relationship that's happy, that's kind, that's loving, and we can enjoy each other and enjoy ourselves, and we can bring out the true self and outside ourselves to be love itself. Like Gandhi put it so beautifully, be the change that you want to see. Whereas so often we find ourselves trying to get the other person to be what we want them to be first. And that rarely ever works. We keep trying to change the other person. We try to change the partner. No, the best way we change the other person is by changing ourselves first. That's where we take back our true power. And there are now tools that are available that we can learn to do that. And we can use tools from systems of therapy like EMDR, which is bilateral brain stimulation, or EFT, which is the meridian stimulation. These and other variations on them are much more helpful than just pure talk therapy for dealing with clearing out those old encodings that we took in from mom or dad that we didn't like. And we can change those and program in new images and new patterns. Because just as we can use imagery like to increase our skill in sports, very commonly used there, we can use that also for changing our relationships. What we can picture, we begin to create. What we think about, we begin to create. If I'm thinking about how I'm going to be rejected, or I won't be liked, or I'll be criticized, I'm going to attract that. If I can think, on the other hand, and believe that no, I deserve goodness and kindness and loving connection and affection, then I'm going to attract that. But we need to cut loose the anchors that hold us back, that early programming. And if we get that cut loose, then our ship sails, and it sails toward a more fulfilling, loving kind of situation.